Stop acting like I'm dead. Oh my god, am I finally streaming enough that people are getting notified again? Oh my god, rare people here stream. Hi guys. Good evening. Hi everybody. Hi Swine. Hi Duke. Hi Leon. Hi B. Hi Kiryu. Hi Desired. How's everybody doing? Hi Rikadzar. I'm good. I often take after work naps and I don't like doing it. I hate naps and make me feel like shit. But recently, I am all fine except for the fact that, everything hurts. Everything hurts recently. My back, my neck, I am broken. Oh my god, yay! Oh, well, I'm sorry that it's because you can't sleep. I wish that you could. Hi, B. What's up? It's rare that I get to like do a chat stream where I get to use all my shits. You know? We're doing an RP session right now. It didn't even last that long. How could you all still be role-playing? I already answered how re-clears were. You're only asking because you're because you're wanting to hear something. Oh my god, I'm so glad that you asked. Today, we're doing something that I've wanted to do since I debuted, where we're going to read The Cask of Amontillado, or I'm gonna read it to you. I thought about putting it up on screen because there are like PDFs available online. It's Poe, it's old as shit. But I have this nice book that I got secondhand. It's like, you hear that? This big thick tome. It's a tome. And I want the experience of reading out of it, you know? There's a difference between reading something online and I got the gold, like, pages. Yeah, your creepy bedtime stories. Oh my god, does this have pictures? No, it doesn't have pictures. Wait, what's that? That was a picture. What was that? There's a picture for... what is this? Lander's Cottage. I haven't read a lot of these. I obviously... Well, not obviously. Poe has a lot of works. I have not read all of them. I have read a number of them. I have not read all of them. So maybe we can have some fun and go through a bunch of them. Yeah, I don't expect that the Cask of Amontillado will take that long. It's not that long. I will try to read. My problem that I always got points off of when I was in school. When I was in school, I would get points off my presentations because I read too quickly. So I'm gonna try to read slowly. I talk too fast. I talk too fast and I yell. So we're gonna try. I want to be good at reading. I want to be good at reading because I would love to do more reading streams. I really enjoy reading. But I don't think I'm very good at it. So we're gonna practice together. We're gonna practice and we're gonna learn together. So if we... Oh, and you know what? In this book, guess what page the Cask of Amontillado starts? It's page 666. Oh my god. It's so perfect. No, it's not 69. This book has like 1,000 pages. Yeah, it's got over 1,000 pages. I'm sure other people here, if anyone's familiar with Poe, has their own favorite works that we can also read. I think the other ones that I like are mostly poems. Let's see. I do like a lot of his poems. But obviously, the Cask of Amontillado comes first because turns out a lot of people took a while to, or maybe just didn't have the background to know that my name and a lot of my brand here on VTuber.com is a reference. And so I was always like, I need to read it sometime. But it's one of those things that I never thought to actually do because I was always feeling that it was something better saved for later, which is what. Oh, murders on what is it? It's murders on. Hold on, I'm in the tables of content. The table of contents right now. You're not talking about Murders on the Rue Morgue. You're talking about Mask of Red Death is good and also a little bit recent. Wait, does this even have pendulum? I'm just reading through the table of contents now. Wow, thanks. I'm just taking up my own time. We've got Mystification. Ligeia is one of my favorites. I like Ligeia. I was oh, and there's Morella. Morella is in here too. Okay, good. Those are the two that I like. Ligeia and Morella. We have... How to write a Blackwood article. Devil in the Belfry. Belfry? I don't know. Obviously Telltale Heart. Black Cat. Oh, there we go. Pit and the Pendulum. Pit and the Pendulum. Descent into the Maelstrom. The Island of the Fae. Businessman. Oblong Box. Thou Art the Man. Angel of the Odd. Purloined Letter. There's so many. There's so many. There's so many in here. Domain of Arnheim. Cask of Amontillado. The Sphinx. Milanta Tauta. Xing a Paragraph. So we got lots. Maybe one day we'll make it through this entire book. Can you imagine? What am I being added for? Fantastic. No fishing. No fishing. I'm not gonna be interrupted by... I mean, I guess I could do silent fishing. We could do silent fishing. I just don't want the noises. The dang, gang, gang. Oh, okay. Oh, and ow, my fucking neck still hurts. One moment. Interruptions are fine. Look, I'm not expecting this to be like super duper serious. But I want to give it the proper go. I think that's fair. Why is it down that far down? Get back up here. There we go. Okay. I already lit a candle. I bought a little candle. And I'm in. Oh, this is weird. I have to like lift it up a little bit to. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's okay. So, hear me out. I sniff candles. I don't like get it based off just the title or the aroma alone, or you know, like what it says it is. You know, I'll just go around smelling everything, and then I buy the one that smells nice. I'm gonna get judged for this, but it doesn't smell like. It's called pumpkin cold brew. It doesn't smell anything like a pumpkin like spice. It just smells like coffee. It just smells like coffee, and like that's my nice fall wintry smell. You know, that's what makes me nostalgic for the fall. Do pumpkins smell? I don't know. I think only pumpkin spice does. Because that's all I think of with pumpkin, right? If you think of the smell of a pumpkin, I don't think of anything. But then I would see candles in the aisle that are like pumpkin patch, and it doesn't smell like pumpkin patch. It just smells like, I don't know, some pure perfumes. Yeah, it's a taste. It's a taste, not a smell. All right. Oh my god, it's time to read. It's time to read. Oh, I wish I had like a filter I could put on my stream, like some fog. All right, everybody, get settled in. It's time for a bedtime story. I got the ambient sound and everything. Gotta turn the lights down low, and everybody get comfy. That's so loud. There we go. All right, everybody get tucked in. Mama. All right, the cask of Amontillado. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as I best could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged. This was a point definitely settled, but the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. Wait, Amati, is this a scary story? Yikes, Scoob. It is. I mean, it's not a scary story. It's just a creepy story. It's just a dark story. I think it's like Red Riding Hood. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my wont, to smile in his face, as he did not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. Zoinks! 2 creepy old men, 1 creepy man. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared, he prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians had the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adapted to suit the time and opportunity, to practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack. But in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk, one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season, that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. He had on tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today! But I have received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts." "How?" said he. "Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible! And in the middle of the carnival!" "I have my doubts," I replied, "and I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain." "Amontillado?" "I have my doubts." "Amontillado!" "And I must satisfy them." "Amontillado!" "As you are engaged, I am on my way to Lucchesi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me Lucchesi cannot tell Amontillado from Sherry. And yet some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own. Come, let us go." "Whither?" "To your vaults." "My friend, no. I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement. Lucchesi!" "I have no engagement. Come." "My friend, no. It is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with nitra? Who knows? I don't know what that word is. Let us go, nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado, you have been imposed upon, and as for Lucchesi, he cannot distinguish Sherry from Amontillado." Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm. Putting on a mask of black silk and drawing a roquelaire closely about my person, I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I had told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I took from their sconces 2 flambeaux, and waving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. "Please read a bit slower." "Sorry. Okay, thank you." We came at length to the foot of the descent, and stood together on the damp ground at the catacombs of the Montresors. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. "The pipe?" said he. "It is farther on," said I. "But observe the white webwork which gleams from these cavern walls." He turned toward me, and looked into my eyes with 2 filmy orbs that distilled the rheum of intoxication. "Nitra, I think?" he asked at length. "Nitra," I replied. "How long have you had that cough?" My friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. "It is nothing," he said at last. "Come," I said with decision, "we will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy, as once I was. You are a man to be missed. For me it is no matter. We will go back. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lucchesi." "Enough," he said. "The cough is a mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough." "True, true," I replied. "And indeed, I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily. But you should use all proper caution. A draught of this Medoc. Medoc? Amonti doesn't know words to stream. Will defend us from the damps." Here I knocked off the neck of a bottle which I drew from a long row of its fellows that lay upon the mould. "Drink," I said, presenting him the wine. He raised it to his lips with a leer. He paused, and nodded to me familiarly, while his bells jingled. "I drink," he said, "to the buried that repose around us." "And I to your long life." He again took my arm, and we proceeded. "These vaults," he said, "are extensive." "The Montresors," I replied, "were a great and numerous family." "I forget your arms." "A huge human foot d'or in a field azure. The foot crushes a serpent rampant whose fangs are embedded in the heel." "And the motto?" "Nemo me impune lacessit." "Good," he said. The wine sparkled in his eyes, and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the Medoc. We had passed through walls of piled bones, with casks of puncheons intermingling, into the inmost recesses of the catacombs. I paused again, and this time I made bold to seize Fortunato by an arm above the elbow. "The nitra," I said. "See, it increases. It hangs like moss upon the vaults. We are below the river's bed. The drops of moisture trickle among the bones. Come, we will go back ere it is too late. Your cough. It is nothing, he said. Let us go on. But first, another draught of the Medoc. Hi, Bunny. A little bit of spooky tonight. I broke and reached him a flagon of de Grave. He emptied it at a breath. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. He laughed and threw the bottle upward with a gesticulation I did not understand. I looked at him in surprise. He repeated the movement, a grotesque one. You do not comprehend? He said. Not I replied. Then you are not of the Brotherhood. How? You are not of the Masons. Yes, yes, I said. Yes, yes. You? Impossible. A Mason. A Mason, I replied. A sign, he said. It is this, I answered, producing a trowel from beneath the folds of my roquelaire. You jest, he exclaimed, recoiling a few paces. But let us proceed to the Amontillado. Hi, Mika. Hi, Oda. Welcome back, both of you. Hello, hello. We're at the good part. They just found the Amontillado. Oh my gosh, I wonder if it really is it. Thank God Lucchesi isn't here. He can't tell the difference between sherry and Amontillado. Be it so, I said, replacing the tool beneath the cloak, and again offering him my arm. He leaned upon it heavily. We continued our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and descending again, arrived at a deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeau rather to glow than flame. Did you hear the page? There we go. I gotta do it louder. It feels so nice. Ah! I'm glad. I want to be good at reading. At the most remote end of the crypt, there appeared another less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains, piled to the vault overhead in the fashion of the great catacombs of Paris. 3 sides of this interior crypt were still ornamented in this manner. From the fourth, the bones had been thrown down and lay promiscuously upon the earth, forming at one point a mound of some size. Within the wall, thus exposed by the displacing of the bones, we perceived a still interior recess, in depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7. It seemed to have been constructed for no special use within itself, but formed merely the interval between 2 of the colossal supports of the roof of the catacombs, and was backed by one of the circumscribing walls of solid granite. It was in vain that Fortunato, uplifting his dull torch, endeavored to pry into the depth of the recess. Its termination the feeble light did not enable us to see. Proceed, I said. Herein is the Amontillado. As for Lucchesi, he is an ignoramus, interrupted my friend, as he stepped unsteadily forward, while I followed immediately at his heels. In an instant, he had reached the extremity of the niche, and finding his progress arrested by the rock, stood stupidly bewildered. A moment more, and I had fettered him to the granite. In its surface were 2 iron staples, distant from each other about 2 feet horizontally. From one of these depended a short chain, from the other a padlock. Throwing the links about his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was much too astounded to resist. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. Pass your hand, I said, over the wall. You cannot help feeling the nitra. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more let me implore you to return. No? Then I must positively leave you. But I must first render you all the attentions in my power. The Amontillado, ejaculated my friend, not yet recovered from his astonishment. True, I replied, the Amontillado. As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones of which I had before spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With these materials, and with the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. I had scarcely laid the first tier of the masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in a great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had of this was a low, moaning cry from the depths of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. There was then a long and obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, and the third, and the fourth, and then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which, that I might hearken to it with more satisfaction, I ceased my labors and sat down upon the bones. When at last the clanking subsided, "Hi, Ashi," No, I don't have a new outfit today. I just have one in the future. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed the trowel and finished without interruption the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th tier. The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast. I again paused, and holding the flambeau over the masonwork, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud and shrill screams, bursting violently from the throat of the chained form, seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated. I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope with it about the recess, but the thought of an instant reassured me. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs, and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed. I aided. I surpassed them in volume and in strength. I did this, and the clamorer grew still. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position, but now there came from out the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing as that of the noble Fortunato. The voice said, "A very good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about it at the palazzo, over our wine." "The Amontillado," I said. "Yeah, the Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will not they be awaiting us at the palazzo, the Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone." "Yes," I said. "Let us be gone." "For the love of God, Montresor!" "Yes," I said. "For the love of God!" But to these words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud, "Fortunato!" No answer. I called again, "Fortunato!" No answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. My heart grew sick, on account of the dampness of the catacombs. I hastened to make an end of my labor. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I re-erected the old rampart of bones. For the half of a century no mortal has disturbed them. In pace requiescat. Ta-da! The end. Kindergarten reading day. What do you mean? That was good. I did good. I did good job. I did good job. Bitch. Oh my god, thanks. See, now everybody is cultured and ready to be a part of the Amontillado fandom. Woohoo! Thanks, guys. More reading. I mean, we have to, right? That was like a 20-minute stream. Alright. If somebody has a request before I can find one of the ones that I want to read, say so. Otherwise, I'm going to Morella. Oh, the Fall of the House of Usher is here, but that's long. Ooh, only Edgar? Yes, I have a big Edgar Allan Poe. Gold Bug is here. Hold on. That's a good one. Ugh. $4.49. Animal Farm! No. Gold Bug! How long is this one? Wait. I'm not reading this out loud! I just remembered which one it was! No. I'm not reading, I don't think I can, I just went through it. Yeah, I'm not reading, slave dialogue. Yeah, we could do Telltale Heart. tried to get me. You tried to get me, you bitch. Gold bug is good, though. Oh, 4:45. It was right before the one that I just went to and then closed. What the hell? Go back to that one. Who, me? Buy a pass! He doesn't say the N-word, he just says other words. It's okay, Amati. He kick and he bite everything. No. Yeah, that's not happening. Oh, the pit and the pendulum! Shit. Damn, there's lots of good ones here. Okay, we'll do Telltale Heart first, because that's classic. Ugh. Alright, settle in, everybody. I haven't read this one in forever. True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. I do have Murders on the Rue Morgue. This is, the complete tales and poems, thank you. I've got it all. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken, and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. Hold on, we're missing something. There we go. Perfect. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain. Though once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture. A pale blue eye, with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Yeah, that's too loud. I'm tired of this song. We're going to... no. We'll go back to the random ambient noise. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out, and then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously, oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, and every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he had passed the night. So, you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed. Slower! To suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph. To think that there I was, opening the door, little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch with the thick darkness, for the shutters were close fastened, through fear of robbers, and so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily, steadily. I had my head in, and was about to open the lantern, when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in the bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still, and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief, oh no! It was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening, with its dreadful echo, the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt, and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise, when he had turned in the bed. His fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor," or "It is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he has been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found all in vain. All in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him, and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a little, a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a single dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out the crevice and fell full upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray, as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. And now, have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the senses? Now, I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet, I refrained, and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker, and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous. So I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet for some minutes longer I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If still you think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head, and the arms, and the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber, and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all, ha-ha! When I made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. Turning the page. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. Didn't know that was a bad one. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them, at length, to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigue, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. She said around, shut him. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But, ere long, I felt myself getting pale, and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still they sat, and still chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued, and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definitiveness, until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles, and in a high key and with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observation of the men, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting, and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, louder, louder. And still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no, they heard. They suspected, they knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die, and now, again, hark! Louder, louder! Villains, I shrieked, dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, here! It is the beating of his hideous heart. Yeah, the end. His most classic, The Telltale Heart. Haha. Welcome back, Leon. We need to back up and do the Pit and the Pendulum. Oh, the Pit and the Pendulum's kind of long. What the fuck? Damn, the pendulum's long. What the fuck? Yay! Not cool. I can't read. You know I can't do it. Hold on, wait. We could do Rue Morgue after. But I want to do Morella. Oh, we could turn this off now. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Mike Flanagan, the guy who did, oh, my back hurts. I gotta sit up. The guy who directed, The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, The Midnight Club, did all of, he did all of those shows, and they're all really good, Netflix series. All really good adaptations. He also did one for a lot of Poe's works. They're not like adaptations, they're like tales based on Poe's works, called The Fall of the House of Usher. And it's very, very good. And every episode, somebody dies. It's like following how this entire family passes away. And they all die in like different stories that aren't exactly Poe, but like there's one character dies and his story is based on the Pit and the Pendulum, and one character dies and it's based on Telltale Heart. Man, the Telltale Heart one was upsetting. All of them were really good, but Telltale Heart was upsetting. Ugh. It was a really good show. I really recommend it, but the gore in it is pretty gross. It's pretty gory. Like episode 1, 2, maybe it's 2, where they like do the first one. The first episode was it Rue Morgue? No, it wasn't Rue Morgue. It was shit, which one was it? I remember how it goes, I just don't remember which one it was called. What was it? It was really good. Oh, I'm sitting here as if I don't have a little string that's used for this. Okay, it was Mask of the Red Death. Yeah, Mask of the Red Death was very good. And also the grossest. The death in it was so gruesome. Ugh. Oh. Thank you. That's the sound of the pipe bursting. If you haven't seen it and you like horror shows or like scary stories, absolutely watch it. Oh my god, Bunny, you saw it? Oh, that one was so... That one, The Pit and the Pendulum, was a really bad death too. Oh. Ugh. Those two especially were so good. Black Cat was alright, which sucks because I love the actor in the Black Cat. Telltale Heart was good. Oh yeah, Goldbug was one of them. Yeah, that's that bitch. And naturally they had a Cask of Amontillado, a duh. Alright, Morella is a lesser known one, but I like this one a lot. And I think it's short, but I think it is slept on. And when writing a lot of my own creative stuff, Cask of Amontillado is not the only work of Poe that I like to reference in my brand. The other one that I like is Morella. And some others, but this one doesn't get any recognition. So... this will do. I don't think this will get old. Look, you have to look up dark, eerie, copyright-free music on YouTube and go with it. With a feeling of deep yet most singular affection, I regarded my friend Marilla. Thrown by accident into her society many years ago, my soul from our first meeting burned with fires it had never before known. But the fires were not of arrows, and bitter and tormenting to my spirit was the gradual conviction that I could in no manner define their unusual meaning, or regulate their vague intensity. Yet we met, and fate bound us together at the altar, and I never spoke of passion nor thought of love. She, however, shunned society, and, attaching herself to me alone, rendered me happy. It is a happiness to wonder. It is a happiness to dream. Marilla's erudition was profound. As I hoped to live, her talents were of no common order. Her powers of mind were gigantic. I felt this, and, in many matters, became her pupil. I soon, however, found that, perhaps on account of her Presburg education, she placed before me a number of those mystical writings, which are usually considered the mere dross of the early German literature. These, for what reason I could not imagine, were her favorite and constant study, and that in process of time they became my own, should be attributed to the simple but effectual influence of habit and example. In all this, if I err not, my reason had little to do. My convictions, or I forget myself, were in no manner acted upon by the ideal, nor was any tincture of the mysticism with which I read to be discovered, unless I am greatly mistaken, either in my deeds or in my thoughts. Persuaded of this, I abandoned myself implicitly to the guidance of my wife, and entered with an unflinching heart into the intricacies of her studies. And then, when poring over forbidden pages, I felt a forbidden spirit enkindling within me. Would Marilla place her cold hand upon my own, and rake up from the ashes of a dead philosophy some low, singular words, whose strange meaning burned themselves in upon my memory, and then, hour after hour, would I linger by her side, and dwell upon the music of her voice, until at length its melody was tainted with terror, and there fell a shadow upon my soul, and I grew pale, and shuddered inwardly at those two unearthly tones. And thus joy suddenly faded into horror, and the most beautiful became the most hideous, as Hinnon became Gehenna. It is unnecessary to state the exact character of those disquisitions, which, growing out of the volumes I have mentioned, formed, for so long, almost the sole conversation of Marilla and myself. By the learned in what might be termed theological morality, they will be readily conceived, and by the unlearned they would, at all events, be little understood. The wild pantheism of Fichte, the modified, that's another language, of the Pythagoreans, and, above all, the doctrines of identity as urged by Schelling, were generally the points of discussion, presenting the most of beauty to the imaginative Marilla. That identity, which is termed personal, Mr. Locke, I think, truly defines to consist in the saneness of rational being. And since by person we understand an intelligent essence of reason, and since there is a consciousness which always accompanies thinking, it is this which makes us all to be that which we call ourselves, thereby distinguishing us from other beings that think, and giving us our personal identity. But the principium individuationis was the notion of that identity which at death is or is not lost forever, was to me, at all times, a consideration of intense interest, not more from the perplexing and exciting nature of its consequences than from the marked and agitated manner in which Marilla mentioned them. But indeed, the time had now arrived when the mystery of my wife's manner oppressed me as a spell. I could no longer bear the torch of her wan fingers, nor the low tone of her musical language, nor the luster of her melancholy eyes. And she knew all this, but did not upbraid. She seemed conscious of my weakness or my folly, and, smiling, called it fate. She seemed also conscious of a cause, to me unknown, for the gradual alienation of my regard, but she gave me no hint or token of its nature. Yet was she woman, and pined away daily. In time the crimson spot steadily upon the cheek, and the blue veins upon the pale forehead became prominent. In one instant my nature melted into pity, but in the next I met the glance of her meaning eyes, and then my soul sickened and became giddy with the giddiness of one who gazes downward into some dreary and unfathomable abyss. Shall I then say that I longed with an earnest and consuming desire for the moment of Morella's decease? I did, but the fragile spirit clung to its tenement of clay for many days, for many weeks and irksome months, until my tortured nerves obtained the mastery over my mind, and I grew furious through delay, and, with the heart of a fiend, cursed the days and the hours and the bitter moments which seemed to lengthen and lengthen as her gentle life declined, like shadows in the dying of the day. But one autumnal evening, when the winds lay still in heaven, Morella called me to her bedside. There was a dim mist over all the earth, and a warm glow upon the waters, and amid the rich October leaves of the forest a rainbow from the firmament had surely fallen. "It is a day of days," she said as I approached. "A day of all days, either to live or die. It is a fair day for the sons of earth and life. Ah, more fair for the daughters of heaven and death." I kissed her forehead, and she continued, "I am dying, yet shall I live. Morella, the days have never been when thou couldst love me, but her whom in life thou didst abhor, in death thou shalt adore. Morella! I repeat, I am dying, but within me is a pledge of that affection, ah, how little, which thou didst feel for me, Morella. And when my spirit departs shall the child live, thy child and mine, Morella's. But thy days shall be that days of sorrow, that sorrow which is the most lasting of impressions, as the cypress is the most enduring of trees. For the hours of thy happiness are over, and joy is not gathered twice in a life, as the roses of Paestum twice in a year. Thou shalt no longer, then, play the Teian with time, but, being ignorant of the myrtle of the vine, thou shalt bear about with thee thy shroud on the earth, as do the Moslemen at Mecca." "Morella," I cried, "Morella, how knowest thou this?" But she turned away her face upon the pillow, and a slight tremor coming over her limbs, she thus died, and I heard her voice no more. Yet as she had foretold, her child, to which in dying she had given birth, which breathed not until the mother breathed no more, her child, a daughter, lived, and she grew strangely in stature and intellect, and was the perfect resemblance of her who had departed, and I loved her with a love more fervent than I had believed it possible to feel for any denizen of earth. But ere long the heaven of this pure affection became darkened, and gloom and horror and grief swept over it in the clouds. I said the child grew strangely in stature and intelligence. Strange, indeed, was her rapid increase in bodily size, but terrible, oh terrible, were the tumultuous thoughts which crowded upon me while watching the development of her mental being. Could it be otherwise when I daily discovered in the conceptions of the child the adult powers and faculties of the woman? When the lessons of experience fell from the lips of infancy? And when the wisdom or the passions of maturity I found hourly gleaming from its full and speculative eyes? When I say, all this became evident to my appalled senses, when I could no longer hide it from my soul, nor throw it off from those perceptions which trembled to receive it, is it to be wondered at that suspicions of a nature fearful and exciting crept in upon my spirit, or that my thoughts fell back aghast upon the wild tales and thrilling theories of the entombed Morella? I snatched from the scrutiny of the world a being whom destiny compelled me to adore, and in the rigorous seclusion of my home watched with an agonizing anxiety over all which concerned the beloved. And as years rolled away, and I gazed day after day upon her holy and mild and eloquent face, and pored over her maturing form, day after day did I discover new points of resemblance in the child to her mother, the melancholy and the dead. And hourly grew darker these shadows of similitude, and more full, and more definite, and more perplexing, and more hideously terrible in their aspect, for that her smile was like her mother's I could bear, but then I shuddered at its too perfect identity, that her eyes were like Morella's I could endure, but then they, too, often looked down into the depths of my soul with Morella's own intense and bewildering meaning. And in the contour of the high forehead, and in the ringlets of the silken hair, and in the wan fingers which buried themselves therein, and in the sad musical tones of her speech, And above all, oh, above all, in the phrases and expressions of the dead on the lips, of the loved and the living, I found food for consuming thought and horror, for a worm that would not die. Thus passed away 2 lustra of her life, and yet as my daughter remained nameless upon the earth, my child and my love were the designations usually prompted by a father's affection. And the rigid seclusion of her days precluded all other intercourse. Morella's name died with her at her death. Of the mother I had never spoken to the daughter. It was impossible to speak. Indeed, during the brief period of her existence, the latter had received no impressions from the outward world, save such as might have been afforded by the narrow limits of her privacy. But at length, the ceremony of baptism presented to my mind, in its unnerved and agitated condition, a present deliverance from the terrors of my destiny. And at the baptismal font I hesitated for a name, and many titles of the wise and beautiful, of old and modern times, of my own and foreign lands, came thronging to my lips, with many, many fair titles of the gentle and the happy and the good. What prompted me then to disturb the memory of the buried dead? What demon urged me to breathe that sound, which in its very recollection was wont to make ebb the purple blood in torrents from the temples to the heart? What fiend spoke from the recesses of my soul, when amid those dim aisles, and in the silence of the night, I whispered within the ears of the holy man the syllables, Morella? What more than fiend convulsed the features of my child, and overspread them with hues of death, as starting at that scarcely audible sound, she turned her glassy eyes from the earth to heaven, and falling prostrate on the black slabs of our ancestral vault, responded, I am here! Distinct, coldly, calmly distinct, fell those few simple sounds within my ear, and thence like molten lead rolled hissingly into my brain. Years may pass away, but the memory of that epoch never. Nor was I indeed ignorant of the flowers and the vine, but the hemlock and the cypress overshadowed me night and day, and I kept no reckoning of time or place, and the stars of my fate faded from heaven, and therefore the earth grew dark, and its figure passed by me like flitting shadows. And among them all I beheld only Morella. The winds of the firmament breathed out one sound within my ears, and the ripples upon the sea murmured evermore, Morella. But she died, and with my own hands I bore her to the tomb. And I laughed with a long and bitter laugh as I found no traces of the first in the channel where I laid the second, Morella. The end. I didn't realize until I started reading how complex a lot of the phrasing is. It's so long. Without any dialogue to break it up. It's kind of monotonous, but I still like it. Yay! When he went to bury her, she wasn't there. Ligeia is very similar. Ligeia is, oh, my neck is about to pop. This is dangerous. I'm gonna crack my neck. My neck hurts so bad. I want to pop it so bad. But it hurts. Rue Morgue, Rue Morgue. I bet the Rue Morgue is long, isn't it? Oh my god, the Rue Morgue is so long. That's like an entire book. It's like 30 pages. That would be like a series of streams. We can't do that much. But we can do... Hum. We could do... The Mask of Red Death isn't that long. I'm getting blue. You're picking... Okay, the first one... The first one I can't say the words of. The second one is 30 pages. I'm sorry, you have great taste. You have very good taste. Oh no. Huh. Mask of Red Death will do 384. Yep. Rue Morgue is like an entire novel. It's like a novella. Marilla! This one a lot of people referenced during, well, I almost said when COVID came out. During the COVID times, this was very relevant because it is about a plague. Let's see, let's get a different song. Let's find some other, we've got Mysterious Dark Piano. It's got a monkey on the image. Let's see, can we get a loop? Oh, 1 hour of dark horror ambient music for reading and writing. Dining with a Victorian Vampire. Dark vampire waltz music. You know what? That'll do. Too bad we're not reading it. Look. Alright, settle down, everybody. It's story time. This is a Mask of the Red Death. The Red Death had long devastated the country. No pestilence had ever been so fatal or so hideous. Blood was its avatar and its seal. The redness and the horror of blood. There were sharp pains and sudden dizziness, and then profuse bleeding at the pores with dissolution. The scarlet stains upon the body, and especially upon the face of the victim, were the pest ban which shut him out from the aid and from the sympathy of his fellow men. And the whole seizure, progress, and termination of the disease were the incidents of half an hour. But the Prince Prospero was happy and dauntless and sagacious. When his dominions were half depopulated, he summoned to his presence 1,000 hale and light-hearted friends from among the knights and dames of his court, and with these retired to the deep seclusion of one of his castellated abbeys. This was an extensive and magnificent structure, the creation of the prince's own eccentric yet august taste. Oh wow. A strong and lofty wall girdled it in. This wall had gates of iron. The courtiers, having entered, brought furnaces and massy hammers and welded the bolts. They resolved to leave means neither of ingress or egress to the sudden impulses of despair or of the frenzy from within. The abbey was amply provisioned. With such precautions, the courtiers might bid defiance to contagion. I gotta read slower. I'm tripping over my own words. The external world could take care of itself. In the meantime, it was folly to grieve or to think. The prince had provided all the appliances of pleasure. There were buffoons, there were improvisatory, there were ballet dancers, there were musicians, there was beauty, there was wine. All these in security were within. Without was the Red Death. It was toward the close of the 5th or 6th month of his seclusion, and while the pestilence raged most furiously abroad, that the Prince Prospero entertained his 1,000 friends at a masked ball of the most unusual magnificence. Yeah, go slower. Go slower. It was a voluptuous scene, that masquerade. But first let me tell of the rooms in which it was held. There were 7. An imperial suite. In many palaces, however, such suites form a long and straight vista, while folding doors slide back nearly to the walls on either hand, so that the view of the whole extent is scarcely impeded. Here, the case was very different, as might have been expected from the Duke's love of the bizarre. The apartments were so irregularly disposed that the vision embraced but little more than one at a time. There was a sharp turn at every 20 or 30 yards, and at each turn a novel effect. To the right and left, in the middle of each wall, a tall and narrow Gothic window looked out upon a closed corridor, which pursued the windings of the suite. These windows were of stained glass, whose color varied in accordance with the prevailing hue of the decorations of the chamber into which it opened. That at the eastern extremity was hung, for example, in blue, and vividly blue were its windows. The second chamber was purple in its ornaments and tapestries, and here the panes were purple. The third was green throughout, and so were the casements. The fourth was furnished and lighted with orange, the fifth with white, the sixth with violet. The seventh apartment was closely shrouded in black velvet tapestries that hung all over the ceiling and down the walls, falling in heavy folds upon a carpet of the same material and hue. But in this chamber only, the color of the windows failed to correspond with the decorations. The panes here were scarlet, a deep blood-red color. Now, in no one of the 7 apartments was there any lamp or candelabrum. Amid the profusion of golden ornaments that lay scattered to and fro or depended from the roof, there was no light of any kind emanating from the lamp or candle within the suite of chambers. But in the corridors that followed the suite, there stood, opposite to each window, a heavy tripod, bearing a brazier of fire, that projected its rays through the tinted glass and so glaringly illumined the room. And thus were produced a multitude of gaudy and fantastic appearances. But in the western or black chamber, the effect of the firelight that streamed upon the dark hangings through the blood-tinted panes was ghastly in the extreme, and produced so wild a look upon the countenances of those who entered, that there were few of the company bold enough to set foot within its precincts at all. It was in this apartment also that there stood against the western wall a gigantic clock of ebony. Its pendulum swung to and fro with a dull, heavy, monotonous clang, and when the minute hand made the circuit of the face, and the hour was to be stricken, there came from the brazen lungs of the clock a sound which was clear and loud and deep and exceedingly musical, but of so peculiar a note and emphasis that, at each lapse of an hour, the musicians of the orchestra were constrained to pause momentarily in their performance to hearken to the sound, and thus the waltzers perforce ceased their evolutions, and there was a brief disconcert of the whole gay company, and, while the chimes of the clock yet rang, it was observed that the giddiest grew pale, and the more aged and sedate passed their hands over their brows, as if in confused reverie or meditation. But when the echoes had fully ceased, a light laughter at once pervaded the assembly. The musicians looked at each other and smiled, as if at their own nervousness and folly, and made whispering vows, each to the other. The next chiming of the clock should produce in them no similar emotion. And then, after the lapse of 60 minutes, which embraced 3,600 seconds of the time that flies, there came yet another chiming of the clock, and then there were the same disconcert and tremulousness and meditation as before. Gay. I need water. Damn, why didn't we play Dining with the Victorian Vampire from the beginning? This is way better. But in spite of these things, it was a gay and magnificent revel. The tastes of the Duke were peculiar. He had a fine eye for colors and effects. He disregarded the decora of mere fashion. His plans were bold and fiery, and his conceptions glowed with barbaric luster. There are some who would have thought him mad. His followers felt that he was not. It was necessary to hear and see and touch him to be sure he was not. He had directed, in great part, the movable embellishments of the 7 chambers, upon occasion of this great fete, and it was his own guiding taste which had given character to the masqueraders. Be sure they were grotesque. There were much glare and glitter and piquancy and phantasm, much of what has been seen since in Hernani? There were arabesque figures with unsuited limbs and appointments. there were delirious fancies such as the madman fashions. There were much of the beautiful, much of the wanton, much of the bizarre, something of the terrible, and not a little of that which might have excited disgust. To and fro in the 7 chambers there stalked, in fact, a multitude of dreams, and these the dreams writhed in and about, taking cue from the rooms and causing the wild music of the orchestra to seem as the echo of their steps. And, anon, there strikes the ebony clock which stands in the hall of the velvet. And then, for a moment, all is still, and all is silent save the voice of the clock. The dreams are stiff frozen as they stand, but the echoes of the chime die away. They have endured but an instant, and a light, half-subdued laughter floats after them as they depart. And now again the music swells, and the dreams live and writhe to and fro more merrily than ever, taking cue from the many-tinted windows through which stream the rays from the tripods. But to the chamber which lies most westwardly of the 7, there are now none of the maskers who venture, for the night is waning away, and there flows a ruddier light through the blood-colored panes, and the blackness of the sable drapery appalls. And to him whose foot falls upon the sable carpet, there comes from the near clock of ebony a muffled peal, more solemnly empathetic than any which reaches their ears, who indulge in the more remote gaieties of the other apartments. But these other apartments were densely crowded, and in them beat feverishly the heart of life, and the revel went whirlingly on, until at length there commenced the sounding of midnight upon the clock. And then the music ceased, as I have told, and the evolutions of the waltzers were quieted, and there was an uneasy cessation of all things as before. But now there were 12 strokes to be sounded by the bell of the clock, and thus it happened, perhaps, that more of thought crept, with more of time, into the meditations of the thoughtful among those who revelled. And thus, too, it happened, perhaps, that before the last echoes of the last chime had utterly sunk into silence, there were many individuals in the crowd who had found leisure to become aware of the presence of a masked figure which had arrested the attention of no single individual before, and the rumor of this new presence having spread itself whispering around, there arose at length from the whole company a buzz, or murmur, expressive of disapprobation and surprise, then, finally, of terror, of horror, and of disgust. In an assembly of phantasms such as I have painted, it may as well be supposed that no ordinary appearance could have excited such sensation. In truth, the masquerade license of the night was nearly unlimited, but the figure in question had out-Heroded Herod, and had gone beyond the bounds of even the prince's indefinite decorum. There are chords in the hearts of the most reckless which cannot be touched without emotion. Even with the utterly lost, to whom life and death are equally jests, there are matters of which no jest can be made. The whole company, indeed, seemed now deeply to feel that in the costume and bearing of the stranger, neither wit nor propriety existed. The figure was tall and gaunt, and shrouded from head to toe in the habiliments of the grave. The mask which concealed the visage was made so nearly to resemble the countenance of a stiffened corpse, that the closet scrutiny must have had difficulty in detecting the cheat, and yet all this might have been endured if not approved by the mad revellers around. But the murmur had gone so far as to assume the type of the Red Death. His vesture was dabbled in blood, and his broad brow, with all the features of the face, was besprinkled with the scarlet horror. When the eyes of Prince Prospero fell upon the spectral image, which, with a slow and solemn movement, as if more fully to sustain its role, stalked to and fro amongst the waltzers, he was seen to be convulsed, in the first moment with a strong shudder, either of terror or distaste, but, in the next, his brow reddened with rage. "Who dares," he demanded hoarsely, of the courtiers who stood near him, "who dares insult us with this blasphemous mockery? Seize him and unmask him, that we may know whom we have to hang at sunrise from the battlements." It was in the eastern or blue chamber in which stood the Prince Prospero as he uttered these words. They rang throughout the 7 rooms, loudly and clearly, for the prince was a bold and robust man, and the music had become hushed at the waving of his hand. It was in the blue room where stood the prince, with a group of pale courtiers by his side. At first, as he spoke, there was a slight rushing movement of his group in the direction of the intruder, who, at the moment, was also near at hand, and now, with deliberate and stately step, made closer approach to the speaker. But from a certain nameless awe with which the mad assumptions of the murmur had inspired the whole party, there were found none who put forth hand to seize him, so that, unimpeded, he passed within a yard of the prince's person, and, while the vast assembly, as if with one impulse, shrank from the centers of the rooms to the walls, he made his way uninterruptedly, but with the same solemn and measured step which had distinguished him from the first, through the blue chamber to the purple, through the purple to the green, through the green to the orange, through this again to the white, and even thence to the violet, ere a decided movement had been made to arrest him. It was then, however, the Prince Prospero, maddening with rage and the shame of his own momentary cowardice, rushed hurriedly through the 6 chambers, while none followed him on account of a deadly terror that had seized upon all. He bore aloft a drawn dagger, and had approached in rapid impetuosity to within 3 or 4 feet of the retreating figure, when the latter, having attained the extremity of the velvet apartment, turned suddenly and confronted his pursuer. There was a sharp cry, and the dagger dropped gleaming upon the sable carpet, upon which, instantly afterward, fell prostrate in death the Prince Prospero. Then, summoning the wild courage of despair, a throng of the revelers at once threw themselves into the black apartment, and, seizing the mummer, whose tall figure stood erect and motionless within the shadow of the ebony clock, gasped in unutterable horror at finding the grave cerements and corpse-like mask, which they handled with so violent a rudeness, untenanted by any tangible form. And now was acknowledged the presence of the Red Death. He had come like a thief in the night, and one by one dropped the revelers in the blood-bedewed halls of their revel, and died each in the despairing posture of his fall. And the life of the ebony clock went out with that of the last in the gay, and the flames of the tripods expired, and darkness and decay and the Red Death held illimitable dominion over all. The end. I'm getting better. There's some words that there's hard words. This got you big words. Yay! I hope you guys are having fun, because I'm having fun. Oh my god, who the hell is messaging me? Wait, Disabled, who are you? Who is this? I just got a DM from somebody I have no idea. Oh my god, somebody I haven't talked to on Discord in 7 years messaged me. I feel like the worst person in the world. Poe? Oh shit, I don't know this person. This is embarrassing. Should I know this person? Who is this? That's so creepy. During my Poe stream. let's just hit them with the OMG, how are you? That'll work, right? That'll work. None the wiser. What if they're watching you right now? That would suck because it was on my personal Discord. That'd be yeah, and then he says right now, like, I see you. That's hilarious. I have 2 messages with this guy. And we had a call that was 2 hours long 7 years ago. Seven years ago! Dude, who is this? It's her ex! Oh my god, I hope not. Wait, hold on. Hold on, wait. It's kind of, he gave me his first name. Hold on. It's kind of coming back to me a little bit. Oh shit, it's on like the tip of my tongue where I might know this guy from. Hold on. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Who are you from people you follow? He just said he's a game dev now. Oh, true. It's kind of, he's kind of talking like a person. I don't know. Did I just lose all my information because I messaged this person? Hold on, I'm gonna Google this. No, but yeah. No, okay. No links, no images. Okay. This might be a real person. This is so bad! Okay, well, he gave me the name of a game, and I've never heard of it before, and I don't see it anywhere on Steam. I'm trying to see if I can look at anything without looking at anything. That's so funny. I see that it has a website, but I don't want to click on the website. Who did I call for 2 hours 7 years ago? 7 years ago. Where was I 7 years ago? 7 years ago was 2017. 2017, I was in college. No, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. I'm just thinking now. Because that name is familiar. Damn, who the fuck are you? I'm gonna Google his Discord and see if I can find anything. Oh, hell yeah, he's got a Twitch. Oh, I'm snooping hard. Hold on, let me see if there's any identifying information on his Twitch. Hell yeah, that's awesome. Anyways. Sick. So why are you messaging me, dude? 7 years ago. With this basic ass name. Is this somebody that I would have known in college? No, because he's also friends with somebody else that I followed on Twitter. He just wants me to play his game. Oh, I'm gonna message my friend. Who the fuck is this guy? No, I'm not opening anything. I'm not opening anything. But I did, but it is true that I messaged this guy years ago. I think this guy's Discord got compromised. But now I'm just trying to remember who the fuck it is. I can't believe my poor friend is awake. I haven't talked to her in forever. Okay, yeah, he is hacked. Who is he? We called for 2 hours 7 years ago. I don't know. Who is it? Who is it? He just tweeted today about how his Discord got hacked and his computer got a virus. I hope he messages me. I hope he gets his shit back and sees that I was trying to talk to him. And is like, oh, shit. How did I know him? Did I know him? I must know! I called him for 2 hours 7 years ago! 7 years ago, I knew- Damn, that's so- Oh! Oh my god, my friend. Oh my god, it was absolutely a Twitter fandom that we were both in! Oh my god, that's so fucking funny. It was absolutely a shitty anime boy fandom! That's so fucking funny. That's so fucking funny. Hi, Rico. Did I say hi yet? I don't think I waved. Hold on, let me do a proper wave. This guy. It's slowly coming back to me. Oh, that's so crazy. Hold on, let me Google this. Oh, he has a Twitter. Who are you? He's in the Honkai Star Rail now. Your game sucks. Hey guys, my friend Leah says hi. Where were we? Were we streaming? Hi Arctic, hi Rico. You guys missed a couple stories. We have read a few Poe stories. We did The Cask of Amontillado. We did Telltale Heart. We did Morella. And we just finished the Red... The Mask of Red Death. Unfortunately, there's a lot of Poe stories that are just too long to read. Goldbug. We can do the Raven. Raven is simple. Raven is easy. And now everybody has no excuse not to understand my Poe references when I do eventually come out with like some lore shit and start writing. You will have to understand everything now. If you were the Raven, what page would you be on? It is just called the Raven, right? Am I stupid? Father has an usher, some businessman in the crowd. I say, old portrait, landscape garden, pit and pendulum, black cat, spectacles, tail of ragged mountains, premature burial. Yeah, it is just the Raven. Where the fuck is it? Oh, is it a poem? No. What the fuck? Hello? If you were the Raven, would you be a poem or a tale? Am I stupid? Am I stupid? Metzen Gerstein. It is a poem. It is a poem? There it is. Page 36. Okay. Oh, but you have to read poems, like, well. I'm not really good. Oh, I'm lost. I got lost. Which page was it? I just said 36 and I think I lost it immediately. Get back, back, back. It's... Oh, that's poem 36 on page 72. No. Fool that I am. 72. Back to dining with the Victorian vampire OST. Ugh. Ugh. Let me make sure I don't break my back while reading The Raven. Alright. Water. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, only this and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember brought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, or "Madame, truly your forgiveness I implore, But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Thank you, have a good night, big bone. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see, then, what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with me an lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word did he outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope and that melancholy burden bore of never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er, she shall press, ah, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he had sent thee, respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff, this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempest sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell the soul with sorrow laden, if, within the distant Aden, it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels named Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels named Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore, Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting, on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out that shadow lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted nevermore. Ba-da-da. The rhyming gets a little fucked up when you don't speak ye olden English. I love the cadence of it though. The rhythm of it's so good. Thank you! Thanks! Let's see. Let's pick one out from random. Let's find a small poem. Thanks! Most of these are to certain people. Let's see. Wait, the J is in here? I'm just going through it now. Alright, let's read one more story and call it a night. Let's see what we got. Oh, it's so close to being able to pop my neck. It's not fair. It's like taunting me. Ugh. How about... we can do... Man, I wish Petting the Pendulum wasn't so long. What's a good short one? The Oval Portrait? I don't think I have read The Oval Portrait before. How about we give that one? Or what's the Oblong Box? That one's kind of long. Let's do The Oval Portrait on 382. Everybody pull out your textbooks. 382. Last one, and then we go bed. Ready? And then we'll have more ready for maybe next time. I also have a complete works of Lovecraft, so we can do Lovecraft ones too. Which, you know, maybe we'll just do a single long one later. We'll have one stream for the morgue, etc. The chateau into which my valet had ventured to make forcible entrance, rather than whoa, I have to get out of the poem mindset. Rather than permit me in my desperately wounded condition to pass a night in the open air, was one of those piles of commingled gloom and grandeur which have so long frowned upon the Apennines, not less in fact than in the fancy of Mrs. Radcliffe. To all appearance, it had been temporarily and very late abandoned. We established ourselves in one of the small and least sumptuously furnished apartments. It lay in a remote turret of the building. Its decorations were rich, yet tattered and antique. Its walls were hung with tapestry, and bedecked with manifold and multiform armorial trophies, together with unusually great number of very spirited modern paintings in frames of rich golden arabesque. In these paintings, which depended from the walls not only in their main surfaces, but in the very many nooks which the bizarre architecture of the chateau rendered necessary, in these paintings my incipient delirium, perhaps, had caused me to take deep interest, so that I bade Pedro to close the heavy shutters of the room, since it was already night, to light the tongues of a tall candelabrum which stood by the head of my bed, and to throw open far and wide the fringed curtains of black velvet which enveloped the bed itself. I wished all this done that I might resign myself, if not to sleep, at least alternately to the contemplation of these pictures, and the perusal of a small volume which had been found upon the pillow, and which purported to criticize and describe them. Long, long I read, and devotedly I gazed. Rapidly and gloriously the hours flew by, and the deep midnight came. The position of the candelabrum displeased me, and outreaching my hand with difficulty, rather than disturb my slumbering valet, I placed it so as to throw its rays more fully upon the book. But the action produced an effect altogether unanticipated. The rays of the numerous candles, for there were many, now fell within a niche of the room, which had hitherto been thrown into deep shade by one of the bedposts. I thus saw in vivid light a picture all unnoticed before. It was the portrait of a young girl just ripening into womanhood. I glanced at the painting hurriedly, then closed my eyes. Why I did this was not at first apparent even to my own perception. But while my lids remained thus shut, I ran over in my mind my reason for so shutting them. It was an impulsive movement, to gain time for thought, to make sure that my vision had not deceived me, to calm and subdue my fancy for a more sober and more certain gaze. In a very few moments I again looked fixedly upon the painting. That I now saw aright, I could not and would not doubt, for the first flashing of the candles upon that canvas had seemed to dissipate the dreamy stupor which was stealing over my senses, and to startle me at once into waking life. The portrait, I have already said, was that of a young girl. It was a mere head and shoulders, done in what is technically termed a vignette manner, much in the style of the favorite heads of Sully. The arms, the bosom, and even the ends of the radiant hair melted imperceptibly into the vague yet deep shadow which formed the background of the whole. The frame was oval, richly gilded and filigreed and Moresque. As a thing of art, nothing could be more admirable than the painting itself, but it could have been neither the execution of the work, nor the immortal beauty of the countenance, which had so suddenly and so vehemently moved me. Least of all could it have been that my fancy, shaken from its half-slumber, had mistaken the head for that of a living person. I saw at once that the peculiarities of the design, of the vignetting, and of the frame must have instantly dispelled such idea, must have prevented even its momentary entertainment. Thinking earnestly upon these points, I remained, for an hour perhaps, half sitting, half reclining, with my vision riveted upon the portrait. At length, satisfied with the true secret of its effect, I fell back within the bed. I had found the spell of the picture in an absolute likeliness of expression, which at first startling, finally confounded, subdued, and appalled me. With deep and reverent awe, I replaced the candelabrum in its former position. The cause of my deep agitation being thus shut from view, I sought eagerly the volume which discussed the paintings and their histories. Turning to the number which designated the oval portrait, I read the vague and quaint words which follow. She was a maiden of rarest beauty, and not more lovely than full of glee, and evil was the hour when she saw and loved and wedded the painter. He, passionate, studious, austere, and having already a bride in his art, she a maiden of rarest beauty, and not more lovely than full of glee, all light and smiles, and frolicsome as a young fawn, loving and cherishing all things, hating only the art which was her rival, dreading only the palette and brushes and other untoward instruments which deprived her of the countenance of her lover. It was thus a terrible thing for this lady to hear the painter speak of his desire to portray even his young bride, but she was humble and obedient, and sat meekly for many weeks in the dark, high turret chamber where the light dripped upon the pale canvas only from overhead. But he, the painter, took glory in his work, which went on from hour to hour and from day to day, and he was a passionate and wild and moody man who became lost in reveries, so that he would not see that the light which fell so ghastly in that lone turret withered the health and the spirits of his bride, who pined visibly to all but him. Yet she smiled on, and still on, uncomplaining, because she saw that the painter, who had high renown, took a fervid and burning pleasure in his task, and wrought day and night to depict her who so loved him, yet who grew daily more dispirited and weak. And in sooth, some who beheld the portrait spoke of its resemblance in low words, as of a mighty marvel, and a proof not less of the power of the painter than of his deep love for her whom he depicted so surpassingly well. But at length, as the labor drew nearer to its conclusion, there were admitted none into the turret, for the painter had grown wild with the ardor of his work, and turned his eyes from canvas rarely, even to regard the countenance of his wife, and he would not see that the tints which he spread upon the canvas were drawn from the cheeks of her who sat beside him. And when many weeks had passed, and but little remained to do, save one brush upon the mouth and one tint upon the eye, the spirit of the lady again flickered up as the flame within the socket of the lamp. And then the brush was given, and then the tint was placed, and for one moment the painter stood entranced before the work which he had wrought. But in the next, while he yet gazed, he grew tremulous and very pallid, and aghast, and crying with a loud voice, "This is indeed life itself," turned suddenly to regard his beloved. She was dead. Yay! That's it. It was a short one. I love my wife. Unlike this guy. They are relaxing. There's something about the way that he writes that, like, from that era without being too wordy. It's very melodious. It's very melodious and very, like, I don't know, the rhythm and the cadence of his writing is, it just, like, keeps pulling you along. It's really nice. It's nice to read, too. I enjoy reading it. I will get better. I will get better at reading so that we can read more together and that everybody can enjoy more of Edgar Allan Poe's works. Because they're all very good. I'll get better at it, and I'll convey it better in the future. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. It's something I wanted to do forever, but I didn't know if it was something that people would be interested in, you know? I'm looking over it. Thank you. So tomorrow, hold on, tomorrow, I hope you guys enjoyed your bedtime story. We'll do it more in the future. Not like a ton more, you know, I don't think I can do it a ton, but we'll do it a little bit, maybe a little bit. I don't know if we'll stream tomorrow. Tomorrow is raid, so if anything it would just be Amonte watching YouTube while playing Final Fantasy. But Friday and Saturday I'm streaming. I don't know if I'm streaming Saturday, but me and Kamugi are hanging out, and we're gonna do some horror stuff for Friday the 13th. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh! I mean, Arctic, do you need a melee? Because you already are a melee. Do you need another melee? Do you need another melee? I can okay, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. I'll just PF clear afterwards. Don't worry, thank you. maybe next week. We'll see. Because there's still a chance that we could. There's still a chance that we could clear tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe tomorrow goes really good. Yes, that's the important part. The important part is that I have the ability to. It's open to me. I have an option. I have options. I've got options. I am not so starved for you know, options. So, you know, let's stop that music. It just got to a good lull. Got to a good lull. Okay, so we've got people we can bother. Like Soli, who we always love to bother. Oh, she just started. Fuck yeah. In the future, dude, in the future I'm gonna be Tank It too. I just grabbed like a bunch of gear from our re-clears yesterday to do my tank. Thanks guys, thank you for hanging out with me. We do more streams this week. We've got more streams. Wow, it's already Wednesday. I was like, it doesn't feel like, I feel like there should be more days in the week that that I'm streaming. What the hell? Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Yay! Okay, I'll let you all know on Twitter and Discord what the rest of the week looks like. I hope everybody has a good night now that we've all kind of settled down with some nice little eerie poems and things, okay? Have a good night, everybody. I'll catch you later. Amanti, adios. Wow, the double wave, the double wave. Hold on.